So for me, social innovation is critical to the future of Japan. Things like technology, things like know-how. Japan excels, in so many different fields. It would be really interesting if we can shift more of those resources, whether it's technology, whether it's people, to really try and address these social and environmental problems.
All right, well, welcome back to Ignite Sendai Startups. I'm here with one of our speakers we just had downstairs. So if you could tell us who you are, what do you do?
Sure. I'm Robin Takashi Lewis. I'm half Japanese and half British. I was actually born here in Japan and grew up mainly in the UK, but back and forth between Japan for a long time. My grandfather is originally from Sendai, so It's great to be back here, and it's a very special place for me. What I do right now...
It's great to have you.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm excited. What I do is I run a startup called MyMizu, which is it's Japan's first free water refill platform. And the big mission here is to radically reduce the amount of single-use plastics that we use. I'm starting with plastic bottles, right? Just to give you an idea, Japan produces about 22 billion PET bottles every year, right? And we lose about 11% to incineration and to kind of the natural ecosystem. So it's a pretty big problem that no one's really talking about. And so our mission is to really try and radically reduce that number.
Yeah, I'm really excited about your project and what you're doing because as someone, I've lived here for about 5 years and it's something I've noticed just everywhere we go. Everything is reusable plastic. You can even look around this room, everything is plastic. And so I think also I have a kind of history with technology and apps and that kind of development side of things. And so when I heard about what you guys were doing, I found I was really excited for what you're doing to change Japan. And so I guess on that, what kind of role does this social innovation play in Japan's future?
So I think Japan is kind of at the forefront of quite a few different issues, not just kind of the aging population, but also if you look at climate change, for example, we see more and more extreme weather events and so on. So there are definitely problems here that do need to be solved. In that sense, I think things like technology, things like know-how. Japan excels, in so many different fields, right? And so for me, it would be really interesting if we can shift more of those resources, whether it's technology, whether it's people, funding as well, to really try and address these social and environmental problems. So for me, social innovation is critical to the future of Japan.
So tell us a little bit more about MyMizu. I understand it's an app, but for anyone who hasn't heard of you guys, what does it do and how can they get connected or get involved with this?
Sure, so it's Japan's first free water refill app.
You see,
what we're trying to do is encourage people to instead of buying plastic bottles, to take their own bottle or their own mug and then refill anywhere in Japan. So right now, the app shows you your closest refill stations, right, where you can get free water. And what that means is it includes both public spaces, that means drinking fountains in train stations and parks, but also our partner cafes and restaurants and businesses.
Wow.
So you can go to, for example, Patagonia or certain cafes that are on our platform and just go and get free water without buying anything. And that way we can radically reduce our plastic consumption.
That's amazing, and I think so great how you're kind of networking and connecting with businesses that already exist to solve such a big problem that we have in Japan. So this app that you're talking about, how do people get the app? Does it cost money? How do they download and use this on their phone?
So I'm very happy to say it's completely free of charge for our users and for the businesses registered. So you can just go on the App Store and search MyMizu. Of course, Mizu means water in Japanese.
Right, yeah.
And it'll be the first thing that pops up.
That's so great. And so I'd like to change direction here a little bit,
Sure.
But as an entrepreneur, obviously you're starting this new amazing company. Is this your first time as an entrepreneur?
Well, I helped to set up a platform called Social Innovation Japan. It's not a for-profit business, it's a non-profit. And so we are a community of people working on social and environmental issues. So we host lots of conferences and events and workshops on a variety of different topics, and that's based in Tokyo. So this is kind of my second thing, but this is much more tech-focused. And I'm not really a tech guy, so there's a lot of learning every day.
That's great. Tell us a little bit more about Social Innovation Japan and what you guys do.
Sure. So we started almost 2.5 years ago now. I feel time is passing by very quickly, but our big goal is to try and create more movement towards social innovation in Japan. So there's lots of amazing stuff happening in agriculture and healthcare and energy, but we're just trying to connect the dots and create this whole new community around solving these problems, because solving these problems is critical to the future of Japan.
Right, I think it's great what you guys are involved with and what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
So it's really interesting talking about this kind of social innovation in Japan. I know this Intellect Center where we're holding this conference, one of the things they're really focusing on in Tohoku is this problem, or how social innovation can solve some of these significant problems we have in this area. And so I'm really interested to hear, what other kind of areas have you guys been involved with?
Sure. So MyMizu is very focused on single-use plastics, right? But for example, as Social Innovation Japan, we do address other issues that are kind of in this broader spectrum of sustainability. So just to give you an example, we've done a few events around women and sustainability, because this is kind of an area that is often overlooked, and so we're trying to create more of an inclusive movement for environmental sustainability. We also do things around gender equality and some of the other issues that are really kind of pertinent in Japan.
So in terms of entrepreneurship in Japan, I know you're an entrepreneur here in this country, and you mentioned you're half Japanese, right? We've been talking a lot at this conference about kind of issues or challenges people have faced either as foreigners or as Japanese people living here. Can you tell us about maybe any challenges you've encountered and how have you been able to overcome them in this climate?
Wow, challenges. Okay, I must say, building an app for me is kind of a whole new journey. I'm not a tech guy, so learning about just basic things like app development, UI, UX have been a challenge. I think specific to Japan, I would say that oftentimes people see solving social or environmental issues as the job of the government, right? So, we're citizens, the government should be looking after us. And there are, of course, many entrepreneurs who are now focusing more on social and environmental issues. So for me, it's been quite hard at times communicating the fact that, yes, we are doing tech, but we're doing it for an environmental or social cause. And along with that, I guess very specific to MyMizu, our whole mission is to help people refill instead of buying bottled water, right? And honestly, many of our refill points are public stations, like for example, train stations and parks. And so there is a perception around drinking tap water that we also come up against. So that's why we partner with a lot of businesses to help people refill in cafes and restaurants and hotels, because there's perhaps a more favorable perception of water from those kinds of places.
It's such a multifaceted problem, like once you start delving into the depths of it, and it's great that you guys are thinking through all of these issues and tackling it together. Speaking of, you're welcome. Speaking of entrepreneurship, I guess there will be people watching these videos who are thinking about entrepreneurship in Japan or who are interested in what you and other people are doing. What kind of advice would you have for people who are thinking about either coming to Japan or starting a business in Japan? What would you want to say to them?
I would say look out for opportunities, because, and this kind of sounds like a no-brainer, but there are many government schemes that allow people to start their own, or help people to start their own businesses. So right now, as MyMizu, we are in an accelerator that's supported by a Tokyo government, right? And that's really helped us to kind of grow and kind of see things in a different way. So there are definitely government schemes. There's more and more funding available for startups as well. So I'd say really just keep an eye out for what's out there. A lot of people say, oh, there's not much happening in the entrepreneurship space, but actually if you dig deeper under the surface, there's a lot going on.
We're here at Ignite Sendai conference in Sendai in Tohoku. Is this your first time to this area? Have you been here before?
Believe it or not, I did a project where I walked from Hachinohe in Aomori all the way to Fukushima by myself.
Wow,
along the
that's
coastline.
a long way. For anyone who doesn't know, that's a very
fairly long
way. Yeah.
It's 600 kilometers. So I did a thing where I walked along the coastline to document the recovery post 3/11, post tsunami. And so I actually walked through Sendai. I used to come up here a lot for my work. So yeah, no, I've been here many times, but I never get sick of Sendai. It's a beautiful place.
That's so great. Tell us a little bit more about this documentary. Is it available somewhere for people to see, or what was your experiences in that time?
Sure. So the whole objective was to try and document what was happening 6 years after the tsunami. So I walked along the coastline and took pictures, videos, and interviewed as many people as I could to try and tell the stories of people that were rebuilding their lives. And so it was an amazing journey. I had so many phenomenal encounters with people, and it was one of the best experiences in my life.
That's so great. And so can people find this somewhere, or is it still in the works?
Well, okay, yeah. No, so the actual product is a website. So if you go to michinokutrail.com, there's a lot of information up there from my journey, and hopefully more people will take the same journey at some point in the future as well.
That's amazing. And so through that, I had no idea that you're involved in that. And so through that kind of journey, I guess I'm gonna make some broad assumptions here in this question. So if it's going in a direction that's not true, please correct me. But in seeing that and doing that journey and what you see, and I think in seeing potential in this conference in this area by coming here to speak, what potential do you see in this area, or do you see potential? What do you see in the people and the environment here?
So one thing I noticed when I was walking along the coastline is that there are lots of young people who are starting their own businesses. Whether it's a cafe, whether it's a startup, there's so much going on. And so I feel like Tohoku is kind of this undiscovered gem, right? Not just Miyagi, but also Fukushima and Iwate and other areas. There's so much going on. And I have personally a lot of hope for the future.
That's so great. Well, we really appreciate you coming and spending time with us here at the conference and encouraging us. And if people want to I know we've mentioned a few of your projects and stuff before, but if people are interested to get in touch with you or any of the things we've mentioned, how would they do that on social media or websites, things like that?
Yeah, please check out mymizu.co. Our Social Innovation Japan website is also socialinnovationjapan.com. It's a bit longer, but it's straightforward. And please get in touch anytime.
Do you guys have social media?
Yes, MyMizu, Social Innovation Japan, they should be the first things that pop up. So.
Great, we'll try and link everything down below wherever these videos are shared, but we really appreciate you taking the time to come here and wish you the best of luck with everything that you're doing.
Thank you very much, and thank you for organizing this conference. It's really phenomenal. So
you're so welcome. Thank you.